By the John Deere tractors at Mississippi Ag. Visit agup.com to find a retail location near you.
Let's go.
Oh, good morning, good morning. We're talking about how Scott Frost comes out yesterday and just lets everybody know, hey, we plan on playing football. And if that's in the Big Ten, that's what we want to do. If not, we may look at other options. He's the head coach for Nebraska. He was a quarterback. He's got that alpha, those dude qualities. And then Jim Harbaugh, who Blake Scott and Jake Wimberly had given up on, who is now one of my favorite coaches in college football. Plus, I had not given up on him. Jim Harbaugh post an unbelievable, what was that, letter?
Yeah, I don't know, manifesto?
Yeah, basically walking you through what all Michigan has done and the success that they have had through their testing and protocol and guidelines to make sure that their student-athletes are safe. So kudos to Jim Harbaugh, another quarterback with dude qualities, and Scott Frost. I don't know if Ryan Day played QB, but he joined the party too later in the day and said, hey, you know, we're going to fight, and we're going to fight to play. And we want to welcome in NFL, LSU insider, Saints insider Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike joins us on the Parish Brewing guest line. You're listening to 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS. Mike, what did you make of Scott Frost and Jim Harbaugh, Ryan Day, even Coach Saban coming out and lobbying to play football?
Well, because I've heard it from Coach O also, very similar type comments that I think what we saw this weekend was a power play by the Big Ten presidents to try to force the other conferences to cancel football in the fall. I think that, there is no other way to cut this. What changed in 48 hours after you saw schedules being redone in the Big Ten, Pac-12, SEC, and then in 48 hours that all changed? Now, I heard the president of the Mid-American Conference say, well, we got some medical information we hadn't had before. My thing is, well, reveal that. What medical information did you get in those 48 hours that you didn't have before then? No, he was walking lock, stock, and barrel with Big Brother. And we all know the Mid-American Conference is the baby brother to the Big Ten. Just like the Mountain West Conference is the baby brother to the Pac-12. This was a power move done by the Big Ten, lock, stock in hand with the Pac-12 to try to cancel football in the fall. They never thought they'd get pushback from coaches, players in their own conference, because the SEC was going to be the last to hold out. We all know that. It was going to be the last to do it. I think that the shock value for them now is, what do we do now? Do we do what everybody asked them to do? Push the season back to late September. They consider themselves the biggest, brightest, best, most informed conference information-wise and more academic elite than any other conference, the Big Ten. They've always kind of beat their chests about that. When everyone wanted them to push this back to late September, they bucked and said, no, we're going to show you we're going to do it in early September. Now, what's going to be their fallback now? They've taken a public relations hit 2 or 3 times now with this. And now I think they have no choice but to push this back until late September,
right,
which they were asked to do.
Right.
But it goes to show the incompetence of the NCAA and Mark Emmert and everybody else that's involved. It has been a screw-up at the highest level of NCAA. Screw-up, big time, on how they've handled this with no game plan. None. You've had a long time to think about this. And this is what you come up with? This is the game plan?
Well, I think the problem is all the conferences are acting, alone now that the Big Ten rolled out July 9th.
I disagree with you there because I think the Big Ten and Pac-12, along with the Mid-American Conference and Mountain West, have acted as a team.
Right.
The Mid-American Conference and the Mountain West acted when Big Brother told them, listen, we're going to do this later on. You opt out first, and then we're right behind you. Because it's well known they kind of follow one another. They're doing the exact same things. And so I don't quite buy that part about everybody's acting differently. What they're doing is they're asking almost for a leadership part here. That they want a little bit of input, and they're not getting any. Again, the job Mark Emmert has done has been absolutely horrible as far as running the NCAA. And it's time that they hire someone that's going to oversee. I wrote about this 5 years ago, and I almost have the same column every year, that there has to be one person sort of in charge.
Yes.
In college sports.
A commissioner.
You have to have somebody, the buck stops with you, totally with you on this. And my thing about this, if this is all about the virus, convince me that we're better off playing the games in February and March than we are today. Because, we know and I have a mother that's in a nursing facility. She's almost 90 years old. And I see it that time of the year from mid-December all the way through toward the end of March. There's a lot of residents there that come down with the flu. It's the highest flu level we have here in the United States from December all the way through to March. Convince me we're better off. No, it's either the fall or you don't play at all. Because I can't see how this works. I do know one thing. If I have a top player, if he's my son, and I have a top player, and I understand what the draft's about, he's not playing in the spring. Are you going to take that chance? So you're going to have a lot of the top players, and some of them already have opted out. You're going to have a lot of them say, you know what, we're not going to play. It's a business decision. Just like the colleges make their business decision, these young men are going to make theirs. So you see where this landed. This was nothing more than a power play by the Big Ten to force the other conferences, come along with us, let's postpone this, and we're going to throw it to spring. But then convince me in the spring you're better off than you are today. And, Nick and Ed and a number of the coaches, and I've heard players say it, we feel safer at the campus than we do, because a lot of now learning is virtual. It's not necessarily on the campus itself, that you're not going to a class. Much of it today is virtual. And I got a granddaughter that her first 3 weeks of school is all virtual. And then they go back for 2 days and then, 3 days virtual, that sort of thing. So you can see where this is going. I just think the Big Ten here, they got caught. They got caught here. And now their public relations deal is what to do now. Well, what to do now is what you were told or asked to do. Move it back till September. See how the interaction would be when you have other people on the college campuses. This is nothing more than a money and a power move. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 did not like the fact that there were players talking about sort of starting a players' union,
right?
Of wanting some say on some of this. maybe getting more money from the school, a bigger stipend. That's all this is. It comes down to the bucks involved and power. They don't want to give up any of that which they've enjoyed for so long to be the ultimate poobah, so to speak, at school. And not, listen, you do what you told to do. And so, there's a lot of layers to this, and it's not just about the virus.
Yeah, it's about the election in November, too. Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike, how important was it? The SEC usually has to lead the way. How important is it that Trevor Lawrence and Dabo have such a big voice in this, a player and a coach from another conference outside the SEC?
Well, you think about, Trevor can make that comment. Because if he doesn't ever play again, he's going to be the first pick in the draft next year. That's bottom line. He's going to be the first pick. So he's going to have a big say in this. And he is sort of speaking not only for himself, but I think for his football team, that we just want to play. We understand that there's going to be some people test positive for it. And we get that. But I think what he's telling you is, listen, there's risk in life all over, and we're willing to do that. We're willing to play. This stuff about signing a waiver, I think is an interesting part, too. That's another factor in this that Big Ten coaches have brought up that the administrators would want them to do. They don't want any liability. That and Blake, to be honest with you, and Bo, to be honest with you on this, I think that's part of it too, that the insurers of these colleges have gotten involved and said, wait a minute, guys, well, what if we get sued? We get sued with this. But I think that it's interesting that Dabo and Trevor, two of the bigger voices in college football, are saying, and then Nick yesterday, basically sort of repeating, now in his own little way, because that's how Nick talks, that, hey, listen, let's play this, and let's just see how far we go with it. Let's play this game. You don't know until you try. And I think that's what all of them are saying. And because they believe, similar to myself, that you're not going to be better off in the spring than you are today. There's nothing medically to make you believe that. If that's what this is about, if that is what this is about virus-wise, and you're having to deal with the biggest kind of input when you're going to start having the flu season hit and weather situations. Bo, you want to play in Wisconsin in February?
No, I'm good. Well, all right. So, Mike, this will be interesting to see what shakes out. I still think it's a long shot, but I sure hope that the SEC and the ACC and maybe the Big 12 hold the line. NFL, it's like crickets, Mike. They are just head down, keep going. I asked you a couple of weeks ago. I'll ask you again. Any doubt in your mind that they play?
None. You'd have to throw the nuclear bomb out.
I love it.
I think the NFL, and in the NFL, they won't publicly say it, but boy, they're sitting back and saying, you know what? These guys in college football that are running this are a bunch of dumbasses. Because if they don't play on Saturday, we're gonna.
Yep. They're gonna jump right on it, Mike.
And listen, they're already stuck their toe in that water, saying, "Okay, guys, listen, you don't play. Hey, so what? We're gonna take over that spot." And I know that there are people that are upset. I've had a neighbor, and I tease him about this. He's give up on the NFL 3 times. Now, the first time was when after the president made his comments, and they had some kneeling at some, for a couple of weeks. And he gave up on it. After 2 weeks, that was enough. He couldn't take it anymore. So he started watching again. Now, he would listen to it on the radio, and he said that was his protest. I was like, come on, dude, what? Protest? You listening to it on your radio instead of watching it on TV? But it lasted 2 weeks. He came back to watch it. After the Saints, no call, that was it. I'm never watching the game again. 2 weeks later, he's watching the Super Bowl. This time, he's the exact same way again. And so I told him, betting over and under 3 is the top spot. I'm betting the under, and he said, you probably win. There are going to be some people that won't watch, but for the NFL, you're going to be the only game in town.
Oh, I think they'll drop a 3:30 and a 7:30 game on Saturday.
Exactly, and I'm taking over that spot. So the college football, you can do what you want. And for the NFL, they don't pay a nickel for a minor league system. And that's what they got in college football. They don't pay a nickel for it.
Right.
Major League Baseball, they got to supplement that minor league baseball team, so to speak. Basketball has the European League. They have other leagues that they play in. The NFL has a free league of minor league system that they work hand in hand with, but it doesn't cost them anything. So, you know what? Hey, if we don't have it this fall, we've got enough information on a lot of those players anyway. We move on, but we're taking over that Saturday spot. You give it up, we're going to take it. And so I think privately the deal is, okay, you want to make your stand, make it, but we're going to make our stand too. We're going to take over.
Oh, and they won't give it back, Mike. Please understand, if all of college football is canceled and the NFL drops a 3:30 and 7:30 game on Saturday, they'll take that, they'll roll with that forever going forward. That'll be a done deal. And so you'll have college football and NFL on Saturday, whereas the NFL's allowed college football to have their own day.
That part, I think they would probably sort of try to figure it out. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think for this year, which is unprecedented, why wouldn't I jump on Saturday?
Sure.
Convince me that's not going to work for me. At this point,
mega ratings.
If I'm the NFL, and you got no argument to convince me not to, and they're going to get that spot, and their ratings will be through the roof. Now, for a lot of people, the NFL doesn't like to say this, but it's truthful. Part of that success has been built on gambling and fantasy football.
No question.
They do not want to admit that. But it is easy to gamble today, much easier than ever before. We do shows in Mississippi where you can man the line. I woke up one early. We stayed over one New Year's Eve, and so I woke up at 6 o'clock that morning, and I went to place a bet on Texas when they played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. They must have had at least 100 people there. Now, this is 6 o'clock in the morning, and people are coming up to me, hey, Mike, what do you do? I'm like, I don't want to say it too loud what I'm gambling on, and that sort of thing. But here it is on New Year's Day at 6:30, and they got that place is packed with people gambling. And fantasy football, and for a lot of people a certain age too, they get involved because I'll get a text or I'll get a call from a lady or a grandmother or a grandfather, maybe a certain age, maybe they're over 70, so to speak, and some are older than that. Can you give me a tip on a fantasy football? I've got the first couple rounds, but maybe a little bit later on. And I ask them, why you do this? You like football that much? They said, well, I like football, but it's a way to connect with my grandson.
Ah, yes.
It's, because, once you get up in age, it's that kind of conversation you have with them.
Sure.
It's limited, because your life experiences and theirs are totally different. And but it's a way to connect. It's a way to connect the dots. and I get a ton of them. I mean, I don't know why, but I do get a lot of it in that factor, and you can sort of see it that this part of football, the gambling and also fantasy football, ties them together, and you're not necessarily rooting for a team. You're rooting for your team that you pick. You picking players at that point.
Well, you're you're even more invested because it's like you said, it's your team.
Your team.
And most of us are competitive.
You know your league.
Yeah.
And you know your league that you're in.
And you want to beat your neighbor or your buddy.
And so it is part of that. It's part of the fabric with it. And so for some people who aren't involved, and they just watch to watch, I get it. And it's your right. If you don't want to watch, that's fine.
Sure.
That's why we live in the country we live in. But for others, they pick it for other reasons. It's a connection to family members, to friends, to colleagues they work with. That's part of it.
Yes.
It's just not about the game itself. I think that there are some other factors which has made the NFL what it is today. In many, many ways, the NFL would never admit to it. Never admit that gambling is now a big part of why people watch, but it's the truth.
Love it. That was fun. 20 minutes with our friend Mike Detillier, WWL Radio, joining us on the Parish Brewing guest line, and at Mike Detillier on Twitter. Thanks, my friend. We'll talk next week.
Thank you, bud. Enjoy.
Mike Detillier, NFL insider, Saints insider. NFL's not checking up. Blake, that's a beautiful thing for the two of us. And you're a big fantasy football guy. In fact, I want to ask our listeners right now. Let's give away something fun. You got an hour and 10 minutes to text. Whoever texts in, that's the way you enter. And we'll give away 2 copper Tito's cups, okay? Those are good looking. They're awesome. You can put a Motito in there. You can put sweet tea in there, whatever. But they're really nice copper Tito's cups. We'll take a picture of them, throw them up on the Book of Face and the Twitters and so on. I want to know yes or no from our listeners right now. Have you ever gambled? Have you ever bet on sports? How many do we have, yay or nay, right now? 601-8, this is the text line, 601-885-3776. And do you play fantasy football? Either one. Let's go. 2 copper cups. We'll pick a random winner. These things are awesome, by the way. We've got a lot of them in the back. I need to give away more of them. So we got another great giveaway. The show is driven by the valet service at 49 Tire in Richland, Mississippi. They'll come pick up your vehicle for you. Service it. Tires, under the hood, maintenance, brakes, you name it. 49 Tire, 49tire.com. Their valet service. They'll come pick up your vehicle at your home or office. You don't have to mess with that. And they'll take care of it, then they'll drop it back by your home or office at 49 Tire. Go to 49tire.com, 49tire.com. The show is also brought to you by Bank Plus. It's more than a name, it's a promise. 2 Tito's Copper Cups giveaway. More next.